Take us through the big economic stories of the year. What dominated the headlines?
Okay, well, I think the best way of summarising the year, Danica, is it was a doom, boom, and zoom year for the economy. and the reason why I say that is that, you know, we were started off the year in a bit of on the track towards a boom. Our stock market was really travelling high. The coronavirus then hit like a pandemic for the economy. And something unusual that no economist like myself would ever expect, that governments would close down economies. That sent us into a crash of the stock market, and that was the doom scenario. It led to a recession, the worst recession in my lifetime, and probably since the Great Depression. We saw that the economy shrunk by 7% in the June quarter, 3 months. Then we started to rebound. We started to grow out of this. And to try to understand it, well, just imagine a budget deficit of $213.7 billion, which the Treasurer outlined in October. Extraordinary amount of spending. The Reserve Bank taking interest rates to record low levels and then telling us they're basically going to hold it there for 3 years. Quite extraordinary stuff. Then you've got all these other things coming in, such as, you know, locking out the world economy and the $69 billion we spend in tourism every year being spent here, and therefore retail is at record high. We've never seen retail spending like this. So you've got this doom scenario being rescued by a boom scenario, and the stock market has responded accordingly. Sure, there are people out there who are still suffering, and that's why JobKeeper was introduced, and what an extraordinary economic program that was. But when you put it all together, and by the way, the last bit, the Zoom bit, Nika, all of a sudden the economy started working through what we call a stay-at-home economy, where people were Zooming everything. They were doing meetings, they were working on Zoom, and of course they were using Skype as well. But that Skype doesn't rhyme with boom and doom, so that's why I've gone for that. But who even thought of Zoom? And the entrepreneur that started Zoom, you know, is a multi-billionaire because of it. Extraordinary year, 2020.
Yes, I'm sure he's had a significant year compared to most people. But you mentioned we saw this recession in Australia, that economic rebound that you mentioned. What can that be attributed to, do you think?
Well, let's run through it. You have interest rates at unbelievably low levels, and so many people have refinanced their loans, maybe from 4 or 5% home loans down to 2 or 3%. That's given them money. The extraordinary spending of $213.7 billion. That's an enormous injection. I mentioned earlier, we used to spend $69 billion a year overseas on tourism, you know, going into Italy, Greece, Rome, all those sort of places. Now we're spending it here. And then you've got an earlier report in your program today, superannuation. People have drawn out $37 billion of their super, and they're using it to spend. So all this is sort of coming together with these low interest rates, and we're getting a strong economy. House prices have now started to rise rather than fall, despite the fact it's the worst recession since the Great Depression. Yeah. Extraordinary stuff.
Absolutely extraordinary. And the unpredictability of the year has been fascinating to watch. What do you think the outlook is for 2021? Will the roller coaster continue?
I don't think so, Danica. I think it's going to be progressive growth. The big question mark will be what happens in March when JobKeeper is taken away. Now, at the moment, we saw the September quarter of economic growth was 3.3%, biggest quarterly growth I've ever seen. Then December's expected to be around the same level, another big quarter of growth. And the Reserve Bank has tipped Australia will grow at 5% next year. Now, 5% is a number, like usually I would talk to you, a good growth number for Australia would be 2.7 or 3%. We're talking 5%, and it could be even bigger. So I think the worst case scenario will be a bit of a blip when JobKeeper comes off the boil. But if the economy is growing strongly, I think the overall impact will be consumer confidence will be good, jobs will be created, and the stock market will be going up, and our superannuation funds will be doing well. So I think the 2021 scenario has to be very, very good because of the enormous amount of injection going on there. And by the way, let me throw one thing I haven't actually talked about so far. As an economist, I started to think the most important thing to track this year was the infection rates and beating the coronavirus and the arrival of the vaccine. Australia's vaccine infection story is one of the best in the world, and that's why our economy is doing well. And now we've got the vaccines coming in, and as you pointed out in the previous story, the whole country should be vaccinated by October, or at least the people who want to be. So we're looking at 2021. It's going to be a good year. There will be some ups and downs. Stock markets and economies never grow in straight lines, but it's going to be a good year. I'd be willing to put a lot of money on that.